Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman!
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com. It is your one-stop shop for all things Holy BatCast. But you can also find us all over social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. And if you love the show, if you love it so much you want to become a part of it, you want to support it, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast and become one of our patrons. If you don't do it, it's okay, I'll never know. But if you do it, I will know, and I'll like you that much more. And that and a nickel will get you a cup of coffee in this town. So, tempting. But I do have to give a quick little shout out. We got a new patron from Patreon. His name is Adam Leha. So Adam, fun fact about Adam, he, at night before going to bed, he does a little runway walk in his Batman pajamas. So, it takes all kinds.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I respect it, and I love it, and I think we all should do it now.
If they made Batman pajamas in my size, I'd do the same shit, so I ain't even mad.
Yeah. No, so Adam... I'm just kidding. I don't know if Adam does that. I hope he does. I hope we all do. But Adam, thank you so much for becoming part of the family. We do appreciate that. And again, for those of you who are interested, you can do it at patreon.com/holybatcast. We're part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you are looking for some of the other shows that we do, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. And as always, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode, we are going to be reviewing the new DC film currently in theaters, and that is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Although that name might not be what you see at your local theater, which we'll talk about in just a second. Joining me, you've already heard his voice, my Bat brother returns because we are in the same time zone. What? It's Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie.
What's going on, man?
Dude, so much. So much is going on.
Well, welcome home. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess let me give a quick update just because people have been very nice. They've asked what the heck is going on because, as everyone knows, I've been living and working in China since June. And everyone's like, what's going on? What's happening? And it just so happens that my girlfriend and I came home to the States during Chinese New Year for a visit. We were coming home for 2 full weeks of friends and family, which is why there had been a gap in episodes. And right around when we left, this coronavirus thing really exploded in China. And when we left, it had just kind of started, and I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. No big deal. And then a week later, it really exploded, and then airlines started canceling flights, and people started leaving China, and it was a mess. And then, so basically, what's going on is that my company, in order to make sure that we are all safe and sound, they are having us work from the States for now until the situation in China is safer for us to come back. So I am back in the United States for the current time being. I don't know when I'm going back to China. It just depends on how quickly things get under control over there. But I'm grateful that the company is doing that for us. And I'm grateful that I was home when things really got bad. And so, yeah, my thoughts are with all of my colleagues and friends in China. So far, everybody is safe. I don't know anyone who has gotten sick, so that's great. But there's just a lot going on there, and it's a good time for me to be cooling my heels back here in the USA. So, yeah, I'm here for now, and now I'm finally trying to restart the podcasts. So that's the other piece, is if I sound a little different, that's because I don't have a podcast microphone with me. I thought I was coming home for a 2-week trip. Turns out I am home for a while, and so I didn't bring a microphone. So unfortunately, the audio isn't going to be as good as usual, but it's this or no show at all, and I'd rather do this.
You know, I got to tell you, if I didn't know you better than I did, I might have to accuse you in the timing of this whole coronavirus thing and that you came back to the States and that's when it happened. I mean, that sounds an awful lot like a supervillain motive thing.
I know. All I can say though is it's one of those things that like the universe was looking out for me. It just worked out. So
Right on.
I am grateful.
God bless you, and I'm glad you're doing all right.
Thanks. Yeah, me too. But this, again, I packed for a 2-week trip home. I didn't know that when I was packing that was now going to be my wardrobe for months.
Just remember, turning your underwear inside out, you can wear it twice.
What is it? It is front, then back, then inside out, then front, then back.
If you're in a desperate situation, you can pull it off 4 times, yes. But
Yeah.
you really got to be in a bad way for that.
I learned that
like
from
no
Big Hero
access
6.
to a laundry facility whatsoever to do that.
Well, this is completely off the rails, but tomorrow I'm going over to Michael Lyons' house to record the new episode of Disorder.
And do your laundry.
And I'm bringing my laundry.
My dog finds that funny.
I've done it before, and God bless the Lyonses, they let me use their laundry. So, yep, I'm bringing a load over.
That Michael, man, he's both of them. They're absolute sweethearts. I can't imagine that if I would have been in need of laundry facilities when I was down there a few months ago, he wouldn't have been like, "Yeah, come on over. I got some Tide and some fabric softener. Come on."
Yep. They're awesome.
That's just them. They're nice people. I like them. Salt of the earth.
I agree. So, yeah, but again, I didn't know that these 12 shirts were the shirts that were going to be my only options for the next however long.
Anybody want to take a over-under bet on how many of those 12 shirts are Batman related in some way, shape, or form?
Not as many as I would have liked. Had I known, I would have packed more Batman shirts, but only a couple. I did bring one specifically because I went and got a picture with the stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame of Adam West and Burt Ward. So I wore
that was
one
awesome. I saw that.
specifically for that. Yeah. But anyway, so that's your little update on what's going on with me. Because again, for everybody who's reached out and asked, hey, what's going on? Are you safe? Is everything okay? Yep, I am safe and I am home for now. And yeah, I just hope that things get under control and then it's safe to go back and finish my job. So we will see how it goes. But in the meantime, I will keep trying to record and have these shows out for you to enjoy.
Excellent. Let me just take a quick second here. Since you're on a tirade, I'm just going to go off on a little side thing. I get points in my life where I get really bad nervous energy because of anxieties and things. And when I do that, I work out like a fiend. Like if I could work out like this every day, I would look like the freaking Rock. But I only have this when I have like these anxious issues. Mm-hmm. So I've had that the last couple of days. So I've been like walking my dog to the point where the dog's like, no mas, por favor. And I burned through all my podcasts. I needed something to listen to while I was out walking. So I'm like, I don't have anything to listen to. So for the first time, I actually went back and started listening to back episodes of this show, just kind of reminiscing. And I just happened to listen to the first episode of the show.
What?
And it's not as bad as I would have thought it would have been, because I'm a stumbling fool on a podcast anyway, even after all these years of experience. But this is not why I bring this up. I bring this up to mention to you that as we record this on February 10th of 2020, tomorrow is the 6th anniversary of you publishing the first episode of this show.
Whoa. 6 years?
Yes. February 11th, 2014 is what the posting date shows on iTunes.
That sounds right. Wow. Well,
so happy Holy BatCast birthday tomorrow, man.
Yeah, you too. 6 years. Oh my God. That's crazy. So thanks. Yeah, I have not gone back and listened to the first episode, I think, ever. So
it kind of got triggered because I was like, okay, I need something to listen to. And I'm like, what can I listen to? And I'm like scanning through my library of the shows that I do listen to instead of trying to find a new show. I'm like, maybe there's something in here I want to listen to again. I'm like, oh, the Richard Citrone episode. I'd love to hear that again to reminisce of that. So I listened to that and I enjoyed that so much that I'm like, well, maybe I'll listen to like the 100th episode. And then I'm like, well, what the hell? I'll go all the way back to the beginning and listen to episode 1 just to see how miserable I sounded. And I was like, as I was going all the way back, scrolling down the list, there it was. It said February 11th, 2014. I was like, well, isn't that a kick?
Wow. Well, and if I'm being completely honest, I probably will not publish this one until tomorrow, unless I really want to stay up late, which I don't. So it might come out 6 years to the day.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
There you have it. Well, happy 6 years, Jamie. Here's to 6 more.
Cheers.
But I was really excited I was going to be home because I was going to get to go see the R-rated Harley Quinn. Excuse me, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous
Depending on
Emancipation.
who you ask and on what day.
Yeah. Because that was going to be like I was going to get to go see that Thursday night, and then Friday I was supposed to go back to China, and then I didn't go back to China. So there is a new DC film out there. It is Birds of Prey, and we have a lot to talk about it. So without further ado, why don't we jump in to Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
When marimba rhythms start to play, dance with me, make me sweat. Like the lazy ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more.
Now, before we get into the review, there are a couple other little things that maybe I feel like we should get it out of the way first before we review the movie. First of all, we've mentioned it is so, well, I guess it all kind of goes hand in hand. So the movie was tracking to open at about $50 million, and that didn't happen. It opened at $33 million. So there have been tons of people out there trying to, what is it, Monday morning quarterback?
Yeah. Or also known as armchair quarterback, or
Yeah.
I was poking around Twitter the other day and people were saying, "Oh, marketing this, marketing that." I'm like, "Show me your marketing degrees. You armchair marketing execs are cracking me up." And somehow that got traction and people enjoyed that. So yeah, armchair Monday morning, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So everybody seems to have these theories as to why it didn't perform as well as it was expected to. But I mean, here's the thing. Is it an underperformance? Yes. But is it a disaster? No. That's where it is. Like, it's still doing okay, but it's not doing as well as I think anyone expected. So that's kind of where we are on that. I will say, for all the theories out there, it not doing as well as we thought doesn't make any sense to me. To me, it doesn't make sense. The only thing that I will give it is maybe it was the R rating. Like, maybe that did hurt it. But even that, like, it didn't affect Joker's grosses. It didn't affect Deadpool's. So, like, it didn't affect Logan. So, like...
Slightly different circumstances, though. This is a legitimate sequel, regardless of what anybody wants to spin or tell you or anything else. This is so far a sequel into Suicide Squad. There's actually clips from Suicide Squad in this movie.
Oh, spoilers, but yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, people pretty much theorize that anyway. So here, let me confirm that for you. Definitely a sequel, or at the very least a air quote spinoff to Suicide Squad. It's in the same universe, exists in the same level with all of the other DCEU films that we've seen to date. None of those have been rated R. And no, I'm not counting the BVS extended cut or any ultimate cut, any of those, because I'm talking about movies that were actually released in the theater. And I'm just going to get it out of the way because I don't want to spend all night talking about this. I said right from the beginning I thought it was a bad idea to make this rated R, and nothing has changed my opinion of that. However, I will say I don't think that's all of the reason for the box office suffering. At the most, that might have accounted for maybe 10 to 15% of the box office, which you add 10 to 15% of the numbers that are out there. It's not enough to make it the 50 million that it was originally tracking to be or whatnot.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, I will say, though, devil's advocate, Logan was an R-rated follow-up to a bunch of PG-13 movies, too.
Fair point.
So, but...
And we gave Logan the riot act for why it was rated R, and guess what? When we get into it, I'm going to give this one the same kind of shit.
But I do agree with you. Like, I think that when they announced it was R-rated, I didn't think it needed to be... I still didn't think Deadpool needed to be R-rated. But... that was the route they went, and then we saw what Deadpool did, and it was like, well, if there was the audience, didn't matter. This is a much different story, and I think that's why they figured, well, if Deadpool can get away with it, why can't Harley Quinn? Harley Quinn is even more known by the mainstream than Deadpool was when the first movie came out. But yeah, like, for all the different theories for why this movie didn't quite deliver what, the expected box office, it makes no sense to me. There isn't a lot of competition. You know, there hadn't been a big movie since Christmas released. Like, this was the first big release of 2020. It's a beloved character in pop culture. It's following up a huge hit movie that even people who didn't like the movie still liked Harley Quinn in it. Like, there was no reason this movie shouldn't have been bigger, and I still can't figure it out. So,
Here's my theory of it. Instead of trying to figure out the one reason that maybe it didn't do it, maybe accept the fact that it's all of those reasons. All of them.
maybe.
The R rating, the strange title, not putting Harley first on the marquee, people not understanding exactly what this movie was from watching the trailers, because I know who most of these characters are, and I didn't understand what the hell this movie was from watching the trailers. So I'm not trying to point fingers or put blame or anything else. All I'm thinking is I think this just wound up being that perfect storm of anti-hype that came into this movie, and it didn't pan out well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say it can't make a recovery, and it's probably still going to make its money back at the very least. So, I mean, I'm not calling doom on this, but I mean, this could easily have been another somewhere between Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman and Joker hit. I mean, it could have been that in that $700 to $1 billion territory, and it's got like zero chance of that happening now.
Yeah,
like zero.
Yeah, it's not going to do that.
Like if this thing breaks 400 million worldwide, I'll be shocked now.
Yeah, I don't even expect that. Like, yeah, it's crazy. And again, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. But to, again, like, I have heard a lot of finger pointing at the marketing. I don't feel that way, because for me, I'm like, yeah, the trailers were representing the movie, I thought. But on the other side, Brendan, I mean, he messaged me. He goes, listen, like, I know you liked the marketing. He goes, but I'm already in the bag for this movie, and the trailers did nothing for me. And I loved, and he loved the movie.
I'm with him.
Like,
well, I don't love the movie, but I'm still with him.
He loved the movie, but didn't like the trailers. So there was a disconnect there for him. So maybe that is true for a lot of other people too.
I think I even mentioned in Orlando I didn't want to be on the episode because I didn't want to tell people how bad I hated that last trailer.
Mm.
So, yeah. I was not a fan of it. Didn't like the posters. Didn't like most of the official photos that were released for it. It didn't do anything for me. And I just kept resigning myself to maybe they're just not marketing it towards a 44-year-old overweight white male who lives in the Midwestern United States. Maybe that's just the reality of it. So I just let it go. Well, maybe I'm not the only one. I don't know what to. Apparently, they didn't market it to an underweight, tiny little koala in the southern hemisphere either. So I don't know. It either worked for you or it didn't. I mean, I saw a lot of people with the same reaction as you. They loved it and they thought it was really cool and unique and original. And then there was people like me and Brendan who were just like, so
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that's true, and I can't discount the people who the trailers did nothing for them, and so they were just not interested.
Like literally, my favorite thing that I saw for any marketing for this movie was the thing that before It Chapter 2, where she's like, I'm so freaking over clowns or whatever. Mm-hmm. That was funny. Like, that's the only truly memorable thing in the marketing for me. And I'm not laying blame on the marketing for this problem. And I'm not one of those people out there talking about they marketed this poorly or they marketed this wrong or any of that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they didn't market this for me.
Right.
And you know what? I don't think they made the movie for me either. And that's okay, because I'm not the one giving them hundreds of millions of dollars to make movies or to see movies or any of that stuff. They don't have to make everything for me. If they made everything for me, you Marvel people would be really pissed off, because you'd have got a whole different Infinity Saga there.
Right. No, I mean, so anyway, that is the reality of it is there are a lot of people who are like calling it a massive flop. There are a lot of people saying, no, it's not. The truth is in the middle. It's underperforming, but it's not a flop, because what is saving it is the fact that it didn't cost all that much. Apparently after their rebates, it cost $84 million.
So that's the disparage in the budget numbers then.
Right.
Because
So
I've seen and heard budget numbers anywhere between like 84 and just shy of 100.
So yeah, 97 was I guess what it actually cost, but after rebates, they're actually in for 84.
Minus marketing and what have you, but we never calculate that into
Well,
budget.
that's why you do the old. In order to get into the black, you got to do 3 times your production budget. So that means they're in the black after about $260 million worldwide. So thank God they spent responsibly, because yes, like it'll come close to that, and then with home video and et cetera, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. But no, it's not a huge hit. It's not a big win, financially speaking. Like they'll probably just about break even, maybe make a couple dollars. But what we're looking at now is we're not looking at a Joker that was made for whatever $55-60 million and made $1 billion. We're looking at more. You know what it is? It's very much like the Tomb Raider reboot, which cost about the same, and it looks like it's going to make about the same, which is a little bit encouraging for those of us who like the movie and would like a follow-up. Hey, they're supposed to be making a Tomb Raider sequel based on those numbers, so if this one can leg it out and get into the black, all hope is not lost.
My only real hope at this point, as far as the after effects of this, is that, and I know there's a new regime at Warner Brothers handling these DC films and all that, and they seem to be much more grounded and level-headed about what their approach. What I don't want is for them to automatically point fingers at absolutely the wrong things for this. For example, a female superhero team isn't going to sell tickets.
Right.
That's the last bullshit I want to hear from anybody. If that's your opinion, get the hell off my Twitter or whatever else right now, because I don't want to know you. That's ridiculous bullshit. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't want them learning the wrong lessons from this, is what I'm trying to get at.
No, I completely agree with you. And I was worried about that too, is because, yeah, for years, we weren't getting female-fronted superhero movies because they pointed to the terrible movies that didn't make money, like Catwoman and Elektra. And it had nothing to do with them being fronted by females. It had to do with the fact they weren't very good movies. I
like Elektra, but I recognize it's not a good movie.
So
anyway,
we get Wonder Woman, which makes a lot of money. We get Captain Marvel, which makes a lot of money. So it's like, okay, good, guys. Like, and yeah, I don't want this to be a huge step back about like, oh, now we got to be nervous about female-fronted comic book movies again. It's like, no, like, that's not why. There's got to be a reason, but that ain't it.
I don't think it will be, because barring the extreme unlikeliness, in my opinion, at this point of Wonder Woman 1984 not doing well, that I think that'll recover that idea very quickly.
Well, yeah, that is the good news, is that later this year we've got Black Widow and Wonder Woman 1984 both coming out in the summer, and both of those movies will make some money.
Now,
how much? We'll
Black
see.
Widow makes a dime, but whatever.
What was that?
I said I don't give a shit if Black Widow makes a dime.
I don't give a shit if it does either. I'm just saying it probably will.
I mean, let me rephrase that. I mean, it doesn't look like anything I want to watch, because I don't like her. I don't really like how she portrays the character. I don't like how they write the character. But you know what? If that movie is successful, it opens the doors for more down the road that maybe I will like. So,
yeah,
more power to her, I guess. I didn't like Captain Marvel. I was glad Captain Marvel made the money it did, because I knew that was going to bode well for female-led comic book movies.
So that's what I'm saying, is that there are 2 movies coming in the very near future that are already made that should do well, and that should hopefully quiet any concerns about female-fronted comic book movies. But one thing that Warner Brothers is doing, which is kind of bizarre, is that they are changing the title of the film a week after, not even a week, a few days after initial release. So it was Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, and now on like theater marquees and on the ticket apps and everything, the title is going to be changed to Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. So Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey.
I mean, would it have killed him to say Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey? Because that, even the colon bit seems a little...
I know. Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey makes a lot of sense. So I think it's too little too late. I don't think it's going to change a thing, but I mean, they're more than welcome to try, is where I'm coming from.
Well, look at all the good it did changing the title of that Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt movie a few years ago.
Yeah, right?
Because what was it? It was Edge of Tomorrow, which I always thought was a silly title. It's a great movie. I love the movie. But, Edge of Tomorrow, it's a silly title. So then they changed it to Live, Die, Repeat, which is an even sillier title, in my opinion. So,
Right, yeah.
what are you going to do?
So, I mean, yeah, again,
Judge it by the product. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is one of the shittiest titles for a movie I've ever heard in my life, but I love the movie.
Right.
So what are you going to do?
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll make a difference, but again, it doesn't hurt to try. I think, I know I'm really rooting for the movie to at least have some legs. Word of mouth is good. People like the movie. It got good reviews. Again, that's another excuse that doesn't hold up, is it was well reviewed. So it's not like, the Rotten Tomatoes score ruined it. No, the critics like
fresh,
it too.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I don't pay any damn attention to Rotten Tomatoes, but of course I can't get it out of my feed for some reason. So
critics like it too. So it's just really, really strange. So
now
we'll
the
see what
cinema
happens.
score wound up being a B+ though.
Yeah, which is not great.
Yeah.
Which I was a little surprised by, honestly. With the reviews as strong as they were, and honestly with the reviews I was seeing online from just people, not actual reviewers, I was people like the movie, but then the cinema score of a B+, I'm like, oh, well, okay, that's the same as Suicide Squad. So, we'll see. I mean, time will tell, but again, because they spent responsibly, I think that's going to save them in the long run. Anyway, all that aside, I want to talk about the movie itself. Finally, I only saw it once. I did wonder if I could get a second viewing in before this, but it didn't happen. So, oh well, I'm going by one viewing. But we'll start spoiler-free, as usual, and then we will talk spoilers after that. So, Jamie, spoiler-free, what did you think of Birds of Prey?
I don't think this is a bad movie. I actually think most of the movie was pretty good, but just to reiterate one more time, this movie was not made for me, and that's okay. This is all my opinion. This is not an objective quality statement or anything else. This movie just did not appeal to my particular tastes and sensibilities. As I've said on Twitter, and I've said in various conversations at this point, to me, the movie was very much a live-action translation of a Harley Quinn comic book. I do not like Harley Quinn comic books. So for me, it's not going to click particularly well. For fans of Harley Quinn comic books, this should be like Shangri-La for you. I thought the cast was mostly great. I got a couple nitpicks that I'll get into later. I thought McGregor was great. I thought Robbie was great. I thought Journey Smollett-Bell was great. I thought Mary Elizabeth Winstead was great, but I don't know how much I can say further on that point without crossing a wall. I definitely got some thoughts to throw in there. Rosie Perez, I do not care for Rosie Perez. I've never cared for Rosie Perez. I generally find her voice and her presence in a film to be like nails on a chalkboard. I don't think she did bad in this. I think she actually was pretty good. I don't know that the character was my favorite or anything, but she did good. But I do have problems with this film. Aside from me being generous enough to say that I think it's a decent film, it just wasn't for me. I do have some problems with this film, but I also found some enjoyment in this film. So that's about all I got to say before we get over a wall.
All right. No, that's cool. I really, really liked it. I didn't quite love it. I wish I did, but I don't, because I have some issues with the movie itself as well, and we'll talk about those when we get into spoilers. But overall, it's a good movie. I'd even say it's a very good movie. I don't think it's a great one, but I did have a really good time with it. I loved how weird it was. I thought that was a lot of fun. I like that they totally did their own thing. A lot of people are calling it DC's Deadpool, and I get why they say it, but it's not. It doesn't feel like it's aping Deadpool. It still feels like it's doing its own thing. I think Margot Robbie is still fantastic as Harley Quinn. It's absolutely her movie. She is in most of the movie. She is. There's very few scenes without Harley Quinn in this movie. So if you love her as Harley Quinn, you're probably gonna like the movie. She's great in it. I do like the rest of the Birds of Prey. For the most part, I think that, you mentioned, Jamie, you didn't love Cassandra Cain in the movie. I'm with you. I thought she was fine, I guess, but she didn't do anything for me. But I liked everyone else.
It's nice to see Short Round getting work in 2020.
No, Short Round's way better. But I loved Huntress, I loved Black Canary, and I loved Black Mask. I thought, were all amazing. So I was super happy overall with the cast, with the characterizations of the characters. I think they were all really, really good. I think the action was a hell of a lot of fun and really well done. So I think this has some really good action for a DC movie. I liked how much it played in Gotham City. So it was cool to see Gotham City and to see different interesting and fun locations in Gotham. And yeah, I just liked that it had an attitude all of its own. So it was fun. It was funny. It wasn't as overtly comedic as, I mean, the whole thing had a playful tone, but it wasn't Deadpool in that it was like constant jokes. At least I didn't think so. So that kind of surprised me. I thought it would be a little more straight up comedy, and it's not. There's a little more balance there. But I'm trying to think, like, do I get into some of the stuff I didn't love? I guess I can. I guess I can say this because I don't think it's spoilery. But one of my biggest issues with it is that, and I've had this issue with other movies, I think you've heard me say it before, is it's very much like a pilot episode of a TV show where what you came to see doesn't happen until the very, very, very end. And so if there was another one coming right after it, I wouldn't mind as much. But if this is all we get, I'm kind of disappointed. Because I want more of the Birds of Prey, and you don't really get it till the very end of the movie. And so, yeah. It takes the whole movie to get there. And so it's almost like, oh, but don't worry, in the sequel you'll get that. But now, there's probably not going to be a sequel, and I'm never going to get that. And that sucks. So, that's my biggest frustration. Like, things needed to happen sooner and earlier in the movie so they could really deliver on the promise of the Birds of Prey, which, ironically, is the same exact problem I had with the Tomb Raider reboot, is it took so long to get Lara Croft to become Tomb Raider that I'm like, well, now that we're here, the credits are rolling. And that's kind of what happens in Birds of Prey. And so I think that's a little bit frustrating. So I was very entertained by the movie, really enjoyed it, really liked the characters, really liked the cast, really liked the action. But yeah, I think there are just a couple things in there that, that were a little more frustrating, and I wish I would have loved everything about it, but I wasn't quite there. So it's a good watch. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's a brisk runtime. I mean, I think it's south of 2 hours, like an hour and 50 minutes or something like that.
Yeah,
maybe?
I think so too.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's never a point where I'm checking my watch in this thing because it moves at a really good pace and it's never really boring. It's just, again, it's a taste thing with me.
Right. And but
again, people who like that sort of thing or that translation of Harley Quinn or anything else, I mean, again, I don't get it. Why this didn't draw more just based on that. I simply don't. I mean, I'm baffled.
Yeah, it's strange. So I would also give it fresh, but I also agree with something we said earlier, and I was going to say it then, but I'll say it now, is that it didn't need the R rating. Like, the R rating is there for some F-bombs and a little bit of the violence, and there's no reason that couldn't have just been creatively moved around, and you could have released this as PG-13. Like, there's nothing in the story that required the R rating. And so I don't think it was the best decision because there was nothing where you watch and you go, oh, well, thank God it's rated R because otherwise we would have missed out on that. I don't think we would have missed out on anything.
Hang on. You hear that?
Yes.
Same page.
Same page. So I'm not one of those people that's like against R ratings in general, but yeah, having seen the movie, you could have made the same exact movie in PG-13.
I'm really trying to refrain from the "I told you so" thing, but
no, that's fair. And I mean, I said it about Deadpool.
I mean, we went on a whole tangent when we did our Logan review over on RF4RM, and the same thing that I said about Logan applies here. It absolutely had no reason to be there other than because they could.
Right.
And when we did that, if you'll recall, I expressed a great deal of concern that I didn't want this to become a trend in Hollywood where they started doing these things just because they thought they could and it was cool and kids would dig it and all that other stuff. And then here we are. Here's the first example I can literally throw out where I said, yep, post Logan, where they did it just because they could and for no other reason than because they were allowed to do it.
Right.
There was absolutely, positively, 100%, as this movie was shown in a theater, no reason whatsoever for this thing to be rated R. None. Zero, zilch, nada.
Yep. But I will say on the other side of the coin, like, I understand why Joker was rated R. Because that isn't an F-bomb every 5 seconds, but it's a very heavy and disturbing and dramatic and like it's a very heavy subject matter. Exactly. And that should be R-rated. Like that, I get. Here's
the thing. Joker is not a movie my kids would want to watch. Even if I would allow them to watch it, and I don't really necessarily have a problem with the way I'm structuring things with them right now, with them watching it, because there's nothing terribly egregious in that film that I think that they couldn't handle. But I think they would find that film boring. Mm-hmm. This is a movie my kids would all three enjoy, and I promise you they would all enjoy it. But here's the thing. Because it was rated R and me trying to have some semblance of being a responsible parent, I went by myself. And I thought, if it's okay, and it's just, a little bit of language, a little bit of violence, nothing too crazy, I'll turn around and take them later on this weekend. Well, not that I'm the case study that needs to be drawn upon here, but they cost themselves an additional $50 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, because I didn't like the movie well enough to turn around and take my kids back. I told them, when it comes out on home video, I'll buy it and you can watch it then, because it only cost me $20.
Yeah.
Versus, how many times did we see Wonder Woman? 6?
Wow.
I think it was 5 or 6 times we saw Wonder Woman. So, yeah, just case in point. Not saying that we're the thing that you need to base the entire theory off of. I'm just saying little bit of a miss in my household.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, understandable. So I liked the movie enough. I would have taken your kids.
Fair enough.
But I can't. Because again, I want to go again. I probably will go again this week.
I was going to say, I'll spend a couple $1,000s to send them down to Orlando, and they can hang out with you over at Michael's house, and then you can send them back.
Great. Sounds like a plan.
Makes perfect sense.
It'll be amazing. Those will be, logic. Yeah. You know what? You send them to me, I'll spring for popcorn.
Which will probably be about a wash on the cost.
Yeah, it's about the same.
Sense, yeah.
So
my popcorn was cold in the movie too. I mean, just to get on that gripe, God damn it! I waited in line for like 14 minutes to get popcorn. And it was cold.
That's sad. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry that happened to you.
Side tangent. Sorry.
It's all right. So anyway, spoiler free. I really liked the movie. I have a couple little nitpicks, but overall, I really liked it. I thought it was a great time. I think the characters were all great. I just had a couple, because, little things that hold me back. Jamie did not like it because it's very much the current Harley Quinn comics that are just a little wackier and a little more, I guess, a little more comedic in nature.
They got a little bit of that clowny kind of a tone. And you know what? Even the Harley Quinn animated series has some of that, but I feel like the Harley Quinn animated series drives home the serious notes well enough, and the humor is written well enough that it mostly works for me. There's been some missteps there too, mind you. We haven't gotten around to the back end of the episode so far, but I still mostly enjoy that show, and even that's a little bit like the Harley comics. So I mean, it's almost like something I can't quite put my finger on, other than maybe they just made too many decisions that I didn't agree with or care for. Mm-hmm. So your mileage may vary. Over the wall, I'm jumping straight to one of them. So.
Okay, well then let's get over the wall. So I think you should go see it, especially if you're a DC fan. If you're a Harley Quinn fan, chances are you already did see it because you're listening to this. You spend your spare time listening to DC podcasts. You probably already saw it. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I hope you're more on my side than Jamie's side. But anyway,
I think you should see it too. I mean, for anybody that's still on the fence, I still recommend seeing the film. It's just, if you're like me and you're wired a little differently, it's probably not going to be one that strikes you quite as well as something like Aquaman did, or something along those lines. It may not work quite as well for you as a Wonder Woman or an Aquaman or a BVS or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get over the wall because I want to hear what you want to jump to. So,
Okay. I want to get this out of the way now because I don't want to spend 20 minutes on the same point harping on it because it drives me crazy, but I just want to put it out in the air and then I want to just bury it and leave it be. I absolutely detest the fact that there was not one rootable male character in this film outside of the hyena. And if I'm wrong on that, point it out to me because I sure as hell can't remember one.
I guess not. I guess you're right.
Yeah. So I get that was probably done deliberately, and I get that they're trying to drive home a point, and I'm all for feminism and equality and girl power. I love all that stuff. I think it's great. I think it's magnificent. I'm married to almost literal Wonder Woman, and that she's the strongest woman that I've ever encountered in my entire life, and she's brave and bold and powerful and everything else, and I love that about her, and I'm blessed to be married to her. But the fact that they couldn't have come up with one guy to be somewhat sympathetic in that respect bothers the shit out of me.
Wow. Okay. I didn't think about it until after the movie because it didn't bother me at all. But I had seen a couple people say something similar, and then I thought about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess that's true." But it just never occurred to me, and it never bothered me, I guess.
And it may not bother some people. It just, again, this is all from my perspective. I'm not giving an objective thing about it here. If the movie still were, I had this discussion the other day with Joe Forno and a couple other people. It's not something that bothered them, and you know what? That's cool. And it shouldn't probably bother me, except for speaking from the perspective of someone who absolutely advocates all of these rights and privileges and equality and everything else for women. I would have liked to seen a little. And I know this is greedy because I have a ton of stuff out there that I can relate to better. I know it's greedy and I know it's petty, but I would have liked to have seen just a little bit of representation of myself in this film. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to rip the whole movie apart because of it. They made a choice in that respect, and I do not care for the choice that they made. So that's that. I think these are two of the best villains I've seen on screen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Victor Zsasz. I really like Black Mask. I like Black Mask with and without the mask because obviously, we're over the wall, so it's your own fault if you haven't turned away. You don't get a lot of time with him in the mask, and I totally buy anybody that tells me that the mask stuff was actually part of the reshoots.
Oh, yeah. I really think so, too. And he looks great in the mask. The mask looks great, but yes, it's so brief that I do believe it was part of the reshoots.
And he's not, well, I don't want to get into the whole thing there, but regardless, I thought his performance was great. I thought he did the character a good amount of justice. I mean, I'm not a big Black Mask historian or fan or anything else. I'm aware of him. I've seen him in a couple different places, comics and animated features and such, but I've always translated him as something of a guy who really kind of falls into madness at kind of the drop of a hat sort of thing. Like he's a smart businessman, gangster, whatever, but he can flip a switch and just go off the deep end just like that. And I think McGregor brought that to life perfectly.
Yeah, I thought he was awesome, and I loved them both. I thought they were great. Yeah, I wish we'd gotten him more in the mask. Because even at the beginning when they introduce him and throughout the film, Harley, she is the narrator, so she introduces us to all the characters. She does go, "This is Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask," and then they show him in the mask, and even then, that's from the scene later in the movie. So it was like they literally only had that footage of him in the mask, which was just a handful of shots. So I do wish they had committed stronger to that because he looked great, but his performance was amazing. I think he was having a blast. I think he was so much fun to watch. Just like him, I think Victor Zsasz was a ton of fun to watch. And so, yeah, I loved both of them. So
Zaz was a little bit more restrained than I would normally expect a character like Zaz to be, but I still think that he portrayed that really dark, nasty, kind of gives shivers up the spine sort of a thing too, especially dealing with the part where he's cutting off the family's faces.
Yeah.
And how much he was clearly enjoying that.
Yeah.
Or toward the end when he's showing the scars and explaining why he has them, that sort of thing. I enjoyed his performance. I'm not familiar with that actor. Apparently he's done some TV work and a little bit of movie work here and there, but he's not somebody I'm familiar with by name or by face. Mm-hmm. But I think his performance was excellent too.
Yeah, it's Chris Messina. He's awesome. He was most notable on the Mindy Project, which I only saw in passing. But he was in Live by Night with Ben Affleck, and he was like Ben Affleck's number 2 in that movie, and he was awesome in that too.
Oh, okay. And now I know who. Okay, yeah, I got it now. I did see that. So,
but in that he was he didn't look nearly as handsome as he does in this. Like he was kind of frumped up, and he looked a little pudgier, and he had a big mustache, and so he doesn't even look like the same person.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, it was funny because I did wonder throughout. I was like, they've got all the Zaz scars, but I wondered if, like if they were ever going to mention it. And then yeah, right there at the end, he finally explains them. So I thought that was cool because I was waiting for that. But I love them both. I'll put this out there, which I think is interesting. So we had heard before the movie came out that at least Roman Sionis was going to be gay, and possibly Victor Zaz, and then. In the trailer, you see them very close together, and so people are like, "Oh yeah, they've got to be probably gay." And in the movie, they have no problem at the very beginning showing that Harley Quinn is bisexual, which I think is awesome. Blow for freedom, that's great. And then they very off the cuff mention that Renee Montoya is gay. But for Roman and Zaz, it was like they chickened out and were afraid to make them gay.
Okay, I didn't really think about it either way, but
I just think it's interesting because you know what? Because people aren't threatened by lesbians. They're like, oh yeah, great lesbians, but they're threatened by gay men, because that's challenging to our masculinity and our sexuality. And so I just thought it was a little sad that this movie had no problem with girls being gay, but then chickened out with the guys being gay.
Do you know why people are threatened by gay men? Because they watch Seinfeld and they know what happens if you're trying to watch an armoire out on the street.
I don't get it.
Is that lost on you? Never mind.
Somebody,
somebody out there got it and they're clapping for me right now, and I'll take that. So anyway, Let's move on.
Well, I'll say one of my favorite Seinfeld jokes is he's like, one of the best, biggest selling point of being gay, if you date someone your own size, you double your wardrobe.
Double your wardrobe, yeah. Now all that's going through my head now is street toughs took my armoire. So anyway.
But anyway, it was just an observation. I do think they chickened out because it had leaked and the fans were like, oh, you can't make Black Mass gay. And so they totally edited around it.
I do have the feeling, and this is nothing but a gut reaction to the film as I watched it. There was a fairly significant amount of things that were changed in this thing in hindsight. Mm-hmm. Reshoots and what have you. I don't know why. I can't quite place my finger on that either, but it doesn't seem cohesive enough to have been the final draft of the true script that they decided to say, hey, let's do this now. Does that make any sense?
I know what you're saying. I don't know what it would be aside from minor things like that, but
maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. It felt a little. I think I'm being overly critical in saying this, but I don't know how to express it in a more tactful way. So I'll just say it felt like it was overly chopped up.
I mean, it was, but I think that by the nature of the movie allowed for that.
Yeah, I mean, telling things out of sequence and, trying to pull that whole Tarantino thing, which I don't think they did quite as well as what Tarantino seems to make work in his films that I've seen. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of a great deal of the presentation that the film offered as far as that, the cinematography, choreography, that stuff, it was all fine. It's just the narrative of how it was done. It didn't sit particularly well with me. Felt like something was missing somewhere.
Okay. I didn't have an issue with that. I liked the style that they went with. I liked the Tarantino storytelling techniques that they aped. I thought it was all fun because it was fun that there were certain things that happened where I was like, I think it was when we were at the police precinct, and then Harley walks in, and now last we had seen of her was like she had gotten captured, and now she's walking into the precinct, and I'm like, wait, what? And then she's like, oh, well, here, let me tell you what happened between then and now. And I thought it was fun jumping around. I never found it confusing. I thought it was, I mean, did they do it as well as Tarantino? I don't know, probably not. Of course not. That's his thing. But for me, it worked. And again, it gives the movie very much a personality of its own. I liked...
Oh, it certainly speaks with its own voice. There's no question of that.
Yeah.
None.
I liked the animated intro. I thought that was really fun and unique. I wasn't expecting that. I liked that. I thought that was cool. They were very creative getting around the Joker, because the Joker was so important to the movie, but like getting around him by using animation and talking about him, but never actually showing him. But I think they did it right. Like if you either have Jared Leto cameo or you just cut around him, and that's what they did. And I think that was smart, because we had seen set photos that the breakup moment, and here you only see Harley like standing outside the door screaming or whatever. Like there were set photos of a Joker stand-in like throwing her stuff out onto the street, and better to not show that at all than to have someone where we know it's not Jared Leto.
Fair point. Somebody said he was like silhouetted in the window or something during that. I didn't catch that, but I wasn't really looking at the window either.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that either. To your point, though, that like, again, for all of their weird semantic gymnastics about, oh, it's not a sequel and blah, 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 like you said, and Brendan said the same thing to me. He goes, it's 100% a sequel. They refer to Suicide Squad like six times.
Am I mistaken? Are there not clips from Suicide Squad in this film?
There are. There are, because before she goes and blows up Ace Chemical, which I enjoyed that too. It's become one of the iconic shots of the movie and GIFs and in the trailers and everything of her walking away from Ace Chemical as it explodes behind her. I think that was really cool. But as she decides to do that, they show clips of her from Suicide Squad falling into the chemicals.
Yeah.
So they absolutely
one of my favorite
did.
gags in the whole movie was the Captain Boomerang cameo, if you will.
Oh yeah, that was awesome too. Is like just a little nod to Captain Boomerang, or when towards the end they pull out the shirt from Suicide Squad, and she's like, "Oh no, not that," it's sentimental value.
Sentimental value, yep.
So no, there were many times, and she recaps the events of Suicide Squad. Because she's like, oh, you want to be like me? You can't be like me because you would have to do this and then do this. And she goes, and then whatever, get a bomb in your head and then save the world and then escape. And so it's 100% in continuity with Suicide Squad, which is fine. I have no problem with that. I like Suicide Squad. But it's
embrace it, though.
It's so weird how they just won't embrace it.
They went so far out of their way to dance around it, just like they're doing with the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. They're dancing around the idea that this is not tied to the first one and it's a reboot or not a sequel, or stop, just freaking stop, embrace it. That freaking movie made what, $750 million or some ridiculous ass number like that, and you're going to tell me that you're going to just turn your back on it and say, no, nobody liked that movie, so this is why we're doing all this, and we don't want to be associated in any way, shape, or form. And then you got people out here on Twitter right now talking about this is backlash from Suicide Squad, that's why it only raked in $33 million. And I'm like, are you freaking joking right now? So yeah, I don't want to hear it. I don't. People give me a headache. This is why I drink when I podcast.
Well, great. But anyway, I loved the Suicide Squad nods personally. I thought it was super fun. Like for me, I like continuity. You know that I love a little continuity from movie to movie, and this movie still has very much its own voice, its own personality, but tying it to Suicide Squad for me was a lot of fun. I loved all that. I wish they would have went for it and just had Jared Leto show up. I feel like he would have, But I wish he would have. But I was kind of hoping for that as a surprise that he would pop up. But sadly, that didn't happen. And then we got the quasi cameo from Captain Boomerang, which is cool.
My two favorite bits in the movie that actually got an audible chuckle out of me were that and the hyena chewing on the pet shop owner's leg.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why that one tickled my funny bone, no pun intended, but I enjoyed that one immensely.
I know why, because I've met you.
Okay, fair enough.
I like Bruce the hyena. I thought he looked great. I thought he was awesome. I was very sad when I thought he might die. I was like, no.
Oh yeah, when the attack on her apartment building happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See
that was okay. I'll get just a little deeper into my point, and I said I wasn't going to do this. I'm sorry, but I got to. The guy that owned the Chinese restaurant that lived downstairs from her apartment, or had she lived upstairs from his restaurant. I can't remember his name now. He kept calling her Lotus Flower.
Was it like Doc or something?
Maybe. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, and that's not a discredit to him in any way. It's because I'm old and I don't remember things. He seemed like he was going to be that character that I could relate to and understand, because like all these other men are dicks and doing all this terrible stuff, bad and everything else. But then she's got this one old guy that she rents the apartment from, and he's okay. He's kind of, a fatherly type figure. And then he sells her up the damn river too. That was the moment where it really clicked with me that there are no positive male people in this film.
Yeah.
That was the moment that sold that up the river for me.
Right. Well, it was Doc. That is his name. But again, I get that, and I don't know. I just didn't take any offense at it. I related to the women, I guess.
Okay.
Like I didn't
and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, this is gonna, your mileage is gonna vary on anything. And again, I don't have a problem with women being the heroes and being the strength and everything else. It's me being greedy, and I know it's me being greedy because I have so many other things that represent me or my ideals or anything perfectly fine. It's something about this film that bothered me. Not to the point where I'm going to deduct grade from it or anything else. It's just I'm hung up on that point and I'm having a hard time getting over it.
Got it. Yeah, I was surprised that happened because I also love the running gag of everyone's grievances. I thought that was great.
It got old after a minute for me, but it was fun to a point.
But yes, when it showed Doc, it was like a little halo, and it was like grievances, none. And so I was a little surprised when he ended up selling her out. But at the same time, it also, it changed her of being listen, you can't count on anybody but yourself. So now she's going to sell out Cassandra. And so, it served a story purpose in Harley's journey of that kind of led to her stop trusting anyone. So it was interesting. It was to me, it was unexpected. I was going to say, before you jumped to Doc, I was talking about Bruce. I do think it would have been nice to get Bruce to get in on the action a little bit of John Wick 3, Bruce helping.
Hell yes. That would have been great.
Do a little, but I think that's more budgetary than anything else.
Yeah, I'm sorry for cutting you off of that, because I was going to make the point that I was going to lose my shit if he was underneath that rubble in the apartment when it was attacked.
Yeah. So I was glad he survived, but yes, I wanted him to get in on the action a little bit.
Because I thought to myself, they're going to do that to tug at your heartstrings and to motivate her to go out and really start unleashing on people. And then it opens the door for her to get 2 hyenas at the end of the film. That's literally where my head went during all of that. Mm-hmm. But fortunately, that's not what they did, because he deserved better.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought, oh, well, because then she'll get 2. But great, she can still get 2 another time. So I also liked the introductions of all the different characters. I think it was, again, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, is the way they did it, there was the moment where Montoya gets the call from Dinah, and it was the first time we see Dinah. And I was like, wow, you're not even going to introduce her? And then again, the movie kind of rewinds, and it's like, okay, no, now I'm going to tell you everything else that you need to know. So I had fun with that stuff. I think they did too. I loved Journey Smollett-Bell as Dinah Lance. I thought she was amazing. And again, the biggest heartbreaker for me is if this movie continues not doing well, are we never going to see her Black Canary? Are we never going to see the Huntress again? Because I loved them. They were so great in this, and I just wanted more of them. So,
well, to be fair, we barely saw the Huntress in it anyway.
Yeah.
I would literally go so far as to say, and I've expressed as much already, but I'll say it out loud for public consumption here. Mary Elizabeth Winstead in this film essentially had a glorified cameo, or an extended cameo, if you will. I thought she was by far the most underserved character in the film. I would have cut Montoya's time in half and given all that time to her. But that's me.
Yeah. I mean, I think cameo is overstating it a bit, but yes, I definitely would have liked more of her. Because I thought she was awesome.
I'm willing to bet she had less than half the amount of time as any other supporting character in the film. Everybody got cut off by Harley. I mean, she's clearly the star of the film, and that's fine. But she was, to me, by far the most underserved, underseen character in the film. And maybe that's just because I really like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I think Huntress is a pretty cool character. I'm not like an uber fan, but I like Huntress. And I would have liked to have seen her do more, be more than what she was. I don't think there's anything wrong with her performance. I don't think there's particularly anything wrong with her character. I would have rather spent more time with her than as much time as I spent with Montoya. And that's not a slight against Rosie Perez. It's that I don't really care about Montoya as a character particularly. I never have. I don't have a big issue with her. I don't really care because she's not really a superhero. Like, to me, she's a supporting character like a Bullock or somebody like that. You know, she just, I thought there could have been less focus on her and more on Huntress.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think that gets to my biggest issue with the movies. I have some smaller nitpicks about the movie. But my biggest nitpick of the movie is that, like, it just takes them way too long to get together. You know, you see Harley interact with each of them individually, but it just takes way too long for them to come together as the birds of prey. And once they do, I love it. It's great. I think the third act is amazing. I think the third act of this movie, for me, is the highlight. I think the action is great. I love seeing all of them interact. I love the big climax in the carnival. I love how that leads to the big chase. All of that stuff is so good. It just took way too long to get there. And I don't know what the answer is. The answer, I mean, you have to go all the way back to the script to change it to get them together sooner, but I wish they had, because it does get to the point where it gets a little frustrating where had they done that, then yeah, you'd have gotten more Huntress. You know, you'd have gotten more of that interaction, because people are, I mean, they called it Birds of Prey, but it just took way too long for that to happen. And the people I was with, they said the same thing. They were just like, I mean, they're looking at the poster. They're like, look, see, they're a gang on the poster. It just took them forever to become one in the movie. So yeah, once it happened, I was happy with it. I liked it. They just should have found a way to make that happen sooner. I was never bored. I guess I will say that as well. And it's on the other side of it is I was never bored being like, okay, let's move this along. I was entertained the whole time. And then when they came together, I was really happy. And again, I think the payoff was great. But then, yeah, looking back at it, I'm like, but yeah, it would have been better if that would have happened sooner. But honestly, I mean, I kind of said the same thing about Joker, right? I was like, yeah, that should have happened an hour in, not an hour and 45 minutes in.
That's true. You did.
And this is this same overall issue, because yeah, like now it's like, oh, well, now it's an origin story. Now the birds of prey can soar, but guess what? Probably not going to happen.
Nope.
So that's all I get. And we talked a lot about like the costumes and stuff, and I think the costumes looked amazing for the 3 seconds that we got to see them.
I got beef with the costumes. I mean, throughout the film, basically the wardrobe choices versus actual costumes. And I know it's a tired thing of geek boys talking about how they want more comic accurate stuff, but I mean, literally there was so much wrong in my head with the costuming stuff that was going on. I kept thinking to myself, I'm going to watch the credits at the end and see if Bryan Singer designed this shit. I was not pleased at all with the aesthetic choices with most of it. And I'm not saying that I would have preferred Huntress to look more like Huntress, Black Canary to look more like Black Canary. I mean, it's whatever, but I know they want to sell action figures and do wardrobing and all that other stuff, but
Like
it's petty. It's petty.
No, I get all that. I do, because at the end we get a quick clip of Huntress and Canary in costume, and they both look great.
Kind of.
I think they look great.
Okay.
But it's just that quick clip, and I was like, and so again, I think that's probably reshoots. Is that they heard that complaint and they're like, oh shit, and so they designed those costumes. I think the costumes looked really good. But yeah, we only get them for a couple seconds. And so is it enough for me to dislike the movie? No. But can I still be a geek and go, yeah, I wish they would have worn those for the entire final act? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how you write it in that they change, but guess what? That's the beauty of being the writer. You can find a way. And I have less of an issue with Huntress because I still think that her costume throughout the movie was still like enough. But yeah, like,
it was reminiscent, but it wasn't quite there.
Right. But Dinah Lance, like, yeah, she's just wearing street clothes and she's wearing super cool clothes and she looks great in them. But yeah, like at a certain point, you want to go full superhero.
Right. And that's what there's nothing wrong with what they were wearing. It's just none of it was really evocative of a superhero costume kind of a thing. Even like a stage of a superhero costume, for crying out loud. But, I have this gripe. This ain't the only movie I got this gripe with. You and I have had this discussion way back when.
So this is interesting, kind of along those same lines. So I went to the movie there was like 7 of us, so we went. And we all pretty much liked it in different levels. But the fact that when we walked out, everybody wasn't like loving it, I was like, oh, maybe... that's what gave me doubts about the cinema score, was because I was like, oh, not everybody loved it. And one of my friends who was with us, she is not a big geek at all, so she doesn't know this stuff. She's going in as your general moviegoer.
Okay.
And she goes, you know what? I was good with the movie until Black Canary did the scream. And she goes, and then I was done. Because for her, she felt that the canary cry came out of nowhere and made no sense.
It didn't. That's something that works for people who know what Black Canary is and what she's capable of doing. But for a general audience participant like that, I fully understand it, because that was one of the points I was going to bring up tonight was, did they explain that she could do this at some point and I just missed it? Or did it literally just come out of nowhere? I mean, I know they had the thing where she was singing in the bar and she shattered the glass in front of Roman, but it feels like it was never referenced again until the point where it actually happened.
No, they do allude to it a number of times, but it's subtle. It's not like, because yes, at the beginning when she's singing, she shatters the glass. And then when she has that conversation with Montoya says something about like, oh, you have the same abilities as your mother.
But doesn't say what those are.
Well, no, what's she going to say? I also know that you can scream and shatter things like your mother. Like, no, but she alludes that she has powers. And I think there's one other line of dialogue somewhere else in there. And I can't remember what it was, but there was another line of dialogue. But again, it was just as subtle as the first. And then there's the cry. And so it was just so funny because it never crossed my mind that moment could be a jump the shark moment for certain people. Like, it never crossed my mind because, as you said, we know what Black Canary can do, of course. And so I just thought it was so interesting to get that perspective from somebody who didn't know that, who thought because the movie was so not realistic, but because the movie was so grounded and nobody had superpowers, then all of a sudden she has a superpower, that felt like too much.
Yeah, understandably so. Because in watching the film, I forgot who I was even dealing with. And it's not that I didn't recognize it was Dinah Lance or that it was Black Canary, but I know her almost more for her scream as being a very skilled, very competent hand-to-hand martial arts fighter. That's how she's portrayed in comics and animated and everything else. So seeing her do that sort of thing, especially grabbing a hair scrunchie and doing it, which was hysterical, by the way.
I love that. I think that's such a great touch. It's awesome.
So I guess it almost slipped my mind exactly what she was capable of doing as an actual meta because of all that other stuff and me enjoying her doing that. And then the cry just kind of does seem to come out of nowhere. And I know it's the thing that saves them in that moment and everything like that, but I don't know. Would it have killed him to use it maybe 2 or 3 times instead of just the once? But
well, and that goes back to my point though about it being like a pilot to a TV show.
Yeah.
Is they use it once and go, oh well, yeah, then you'll get more of it next time. Well, guess what? No, you don't. Give me what I came to see this time. Don't promise me for next time.
You remember when we had the discussion about Aquaman and it seemed like James Wan was throwing everything but the kitchen sink into Aquaman because you just never know.
Which is why I love that freaking movie.
Right. I mean, I wish everybody would take that approach. And that's not a criticism saying that man better than woman as director or anything. It's just I like the choices that he made in that respect better than I like the choices that were made here.
Well, that's just
all that
it.
comes down to.
He approached Aquaman as if this was going to be the only Aquaman movie. And so he did everything he wanted to do. And this movie was like, oh, we'll get to it in the next one.
Yeah. Well, we're smack dab in the middle of a franchise. We're going to try and redefine a franchise, and we're going to have doors open for things to happen in a future franchise, but we're not going to lock it down tight enough to ensure that that's going to happen. That's kind of where we're at this moment, apparently.
So to go back to the Canary Cry, I was shocked that it was a deal breaker because I thought it was awesome. I loved it. Thought it was a great moment. I'm mad that they put it in the trailer but again, I don't even blame them for that. I blame the fans who've been bitching about it because they put it in the trailer to shut the fans up. Just like they put Black Mask putting on his mask in the trailer to shut the fans up.
Just like they put Doomsday in a trailer, and then they didn't like that, so then they put half the damn warehouse or the Martha Rescue in there, and it's. People need to learn how to shut up. They cry about too much in the marketing, and then they cry about not enough in the marketing. Know what movie you're going to see,
Yeah, that's exactly it. So like there were those cool things like Black Mask finally putting on the mask and the Canary Cry that had we not seen it in the trailer would have been even cooler. But they put it in the trailer because they had heard grumblings from fans that were like, oh, that's not even Black Canary. She doesn't even have her cry. And is Black Mask ever going to wear his black mask? It's like, I just wish people go, wait till the movie. But that's not a fault of the movie. That's just the overall situation, which I thought was frustrating.
Yeah.
But to go back, I freaking love the abandoned amusement park because of course I do. Obviously.
I would have liked a little bit more from that, but I understand we're working with not a particularly outrageous budget film, so I can deal with what they showed, and I'm okay with it.
And I love the fight in the funhouse. Again, I do feel like the third act really does deliver on the action, and it's all really fun, with the trampolines and the weapons, and I love that she uses her mallet.
The mallet. I like the when did she have time for a shoe change thing. That was pretty funny.
And it's funny because as I was watching it, I even thought, I was like, man, didn't we see her going after a car in her roller skates? And while they're fighting in the funhouse, I was like, this is obviously the final battle. I'm like, oh no, did the chase get cut? And then when it went into the chase, I was like, oh, thank God, because that looked really cool. And then it was the chase on the roller skates was really awesome too. So again, I think the action in the movie, I was really happy with it. I thought it was awesome.
My favorite bit of that in all the movie, and there was really cool action going on throughout. Again, I enjoyed the choreography and how it was done and everything. I thought that was all good. I really enjoyed 99% of that. But my favorite thing was the bouncing the bat into that guy's face.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one was like, oh yeah, that'll work.
It's awesome. And then
not sure the physics quite pan out with that, but I don't give a damn.
That doesn't matter.
Great.
Doesn't matter. But then going back to when she breaks into the police station to get Cassandra Cain, I thought that was awesome too. I loved the beanbags, I guess you'd call them beanbags.
Yeah.
And the ones that were full of glitter. I thought that was awesome. And then when that whole sequence I thought was terrific. That led to the fight, her accidentally unlocking all the different jail cells and then them all coming after her. I thought that was badass. So those are two really standout action scenes in this movie that I thought were really awesome.
I personally found the beanbag gun thing wearing itself thin after about 3, but everything that happened after that in the police station I really liked.
Oh, so cool! Like in the water, like some of the moves and and I love that we got like fully acrobatic Harley Quinn. Was so cool. I feel like we got more of it here than we did in Suicide Squad.
Definitely.
And I also loved how many times they called back to her being a psychiatrist. Because sometimes I feel like people forget that about Harley, and I like that this movie did not forget it. It continued to play with it.
There's actually a couple of Black Label books going right now, Criminal Sanity and Harleen. Both excellent books. I highly recommend both, but they do a lot of playing on her history and development and everything like that as well.
Yeah. I thought that was, I loved that. I thought it was really fun. And can we take a moment to mourn the egg sandwich?
I mean, I'd be right there with you if it wasn't for the 6-month-old cheese thing. That part just kind of gave me a little bit of ew. So, I was all in on that sandwich until she said that. All in. Like I was thinking to myself, I'm going to go get myself an Egg McMuffin when I leave here because I know that's the only breakfast sandwich I can get at 7, 8 o'clock at night. So, but no. So then she said 6-month-old cheese, and I was like, out, done.
Well, but cheese is one of those things that like you're supposed to age it.
Okay.
Right? Question mark?
I'm not sure you're supposed to age it at home.
I don't either.
Okay. Anyway, that's, again, petty nitpick. I know.
But, okay, so I know I've talked about it on one of the podcasts with Scott, but I don't remember if it was ones with you. But in movies, when food goes uneaten or wasted or destroyed, it always bothers me.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Like the famous scene of on Twister when she buys the lemonades and puts them on the roof of the car and then they drive off and they fly off the car. And I'm like, oh, God, those were 2 brand new lemonades and you just drove off. It drives me nuts. Drives me crazy. So I do love that there's a plot point in this movie about wasted food. Because it speaks to me. And I got so much satisfaction at the end when she finally got to enjoy her sandwich.
No, that's great that stuff pans out for you. It is.
I thought it was a hoot. And
see,
like,
we've all got our little quirks in movies that are like that. They're maybe just a little bit different than everybody else's. Like for me, I can't stand seeing cars that I love get damaged or destroyed in movies.
Right.
Like watching Ford versus Ferrari. That's a magnificent film. Made my top 5 of the year. Loved almost everything about that film, but it makes me cry watching some of the things that happened to some of those cars in that film. So no, I get where you're coming from. We've all got those little quirks.
What does that say about us? That you get sad about cars and I get sad about food?
That we should get into a car and gently and drive it to a restaurant and get some food.
I like that the movie very much celebrates food. I liked her breakup, gorging. I like that the movie ends with them going to get tacos. That made me so happy because after the movie, we definitely went and got tacos. That was true.
I definitely wanted a margarita at a couple points in that film.
Yes. I love that. And so like, yeah, during the whole chase scene, when they're after her, when she has the sandwich, I even thought to myself, I was like, oh God, did she drop the sandwich? And then she pulls it out again. And I was like, oh, good. And then it gets destroyed and it's super sad. I love that. Just like playing that for laughs. I thought it was awesome.
I have not craved a sandwich that bad since I watched Chef.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know the scene I'm talking about in Chef where he's cooking that grilled cheese?
Yes,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, same thing with this sandwich here.
Oh man. So yes, I was super happy when she got it. Oh, another thing where I feel like got edited a bit is I think we were supposed to get a full-on production number of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend.
Okay.
Because the way it was edited was super weird of her like going into the dream and us getting like a couple quick shots of it and then it comes back. I feel like they had the whole number in there and they cut it because test audiences were like, that was too much.
Frankly, I forgot that scene was even in the film until you just right now, that moment mentioned it.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that was in the film.
Yeah. It was just, again, it's just a hunch, but my hunch is that they did a full number and it's not in there.
I think you're onto something. I think you're probably right.
So they should have put it at the end, like Okay, sorry for the tangent, but this is not the first time that has happened. So it happened in Sucker Punch, and then they put it over the end credits because they cut it out of the movie. And then it happened again in Ghostbusters 2016. There was a whole big dance number when Chris Hemsworth was possessed, and same thing, they cut it out of the movie because it took too long, and then they put it over the end credits. And I feel like they could have done the same thing here. They should have just done that.
Yeah, I agree.
So it was just because you either do it or you don't, because the way they kind of half did it, I was like, oh, that just was kind of weird, you know?
Yeah. It wasn't very memorable, obviously, because I did not remember it was there.
Right.
Can we talk about cast for a second?
Sure.
I get people's gripes. I get people's complaints. I understand. Apparently Cass has a fan base that I was unaware of. I was not introduced to Cass until Detective Rebirth that James Tynion was writing, and I've enjoyed what I've read of her in there. I think she's an interesting character that has a tremendous amount of potential. I'm not like so in love with the character I've gone back and researched her whole history like I did with Batwoman or anything, but she's intriguing and I enjoy her character. So I get why people are maybe upset with the changes that were made in the choices of how to make this character named Cassandra Cain in this not be anything like the cast that they're aware of. But that's not the part that bothers me about her. The part that bothers me about her, and I'm not even necessarily going to blame the actress so much as I am the character itself, as how they chose to portray it, had the charisma of a stale biscuit.
Okay. I'm definitely more on your page. Number one, these people who are like mad that it's not a comics accurate Cassandra Cain, I'm like, why? Since when does anyone give a shit about Cassandra Cain? I'm sorry. We're not talking about Batman or the Joker here. We're talking about Cassandra Cain. She's not that important. I'm sorry. If you're a huge fan and that makes you mad, I'm sorry. She's not that important. Who cares?
You know what? I'm in this other geek group that a friend of mine runs, and I spend some time there periodically, not a lot. But these guys are like all about. Oh yeah. These guys are constantly jumping all over the DC movies. Like they're those guys, and I'm the advocate that brings sanity back to the world. And they're like, oh, F this movie because look how bad they messed up Cassandra Cain. This is before they even saw the movie. This is before the movie even got released. This is like 2 days before the movie got released. They were talking about this stuff. They're like, that ain't my cast and everything else. So I just calmly typed in, what was the last Cassandra Cain comic book you read? Crickets. Still haven't got a response. That was like, what, 4 or 5 days ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, I've seen those complaints, and I'm like, it's Cassandra Cain. Who cares? I'm sorry. Who cares?
I mean, if you love Cass that much, and I get liking a smaller scale character like that, I truly do. If you like her that much, you've got a legitimate gripe, and that's fine. But to talk about that's the reason you're going to piss all over a movie before you've seen it is ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, I like her as Orphan. I really like the character, but who cares? I just don't care. Like, so I think the people who've gotten all up in arms about that, it's ridiculous. Also, because if you watch the movie, they leave enough room that this cast could become that cast. She's young enough here that she could still become that. They don't go into her backstory. All we know is she is an orphan. So, like, she could. So that should be enough. But yes, she was my least favorite character in the movie. I didn't hate her, but I didn't particularly like her either. I just was like, she's fine. Whereas I loved Roman. I loved Dinah. I loved Huntress. I loved Harley. Like, I loved almost everyone in Cass. I was like, I guess you're here too. Yeah,
cut all of Cass's time out of this film completely and give that all to Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, I agree.
All of it.
So
you could have easily made Harley the character that was running around with that diamond instead of her and been fine.
Right.
There was, for me, nitpicky as hell as it might have been, unless you want child representation in an R-rated film, there's no reason for her to be there. There really none.
Well,
none.
I mean, if she doesn't have the diamond, what are they after?
Well, Harley has the diamond and they're all after her. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to be script doctor here, and that ain't my job. So,
right.
I didn't give a shit about Cass. I really didn't. Like, I generally have bad problems watching shows where kids get harmed or killed or anything like that. Like Dr. Sleep, I'm still messed up with that. The Outsider episode 1, still messed up with that. If somebody would have killed Cass in this movie, I'd have been like, peace. Because I just didn't care.
Yeah, she was not charming enough that I was like super invested in her safety. So I get where you're coming from.
And there were literally shots where she looked like Short Round too. And that's not being racist or anything else. It's just,
why are you so racist?
Yeah,
why are you such a racist? Don't do that.
I was just waiting for somebody to talk to her and her to turn around and say, okay, Dr. Jones, hold on to your potatoes.
See, but if she did do that, then I would have like really felt for her and wouldn't want any bad things to happen to her. Because Short Round is awesome. Do you not like Short Round? Is this what you're saying?
I do, but I mean, he's not my favorite.
Short Round is delightful. Cass was just kind of there.
I'm a solid guy myself, so.
Okay. Let's get to the end. So, again, I love the Funhouse stuff. I think that was awesome. I loved the big fight. I loved the chase. I thought that was all really good. I loved the moment where Harley, she fell down and the Huntress came up and threw the line to her in the, with the motorcycle so she could catch up. I thought that was great. But then it all culminates in Founders Wharf, Founders Pier.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Which I thought was such a cool location for the final standoff. I love the idea of all these different statues and stuff and then not knowing which one's him in the fog and everything. I think that was all done really well. I loved her big final speech. I think that was terrific. And so I thought that was really cool. And I liked that it was after all of the big exciting action of the chase and the fight, I liked that it was really just Roman and Harley. I thought that was really neat too. And I have very mixed feelings about Roman's fate because, it was a hell of a way to take out the villain. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, he ain't coming back. And that makes me really sad because he was so good in the movie. I wanted to at least have the option for this version of Black Mask to show back up.
That whole sequence played out in Chris Tucker's voice to me. You ever see the Rush Hour movies?
Yes.
And then at the end of the Rush Hour movies, they kind of do the little outtakes things, the gags and everything.
Yeah.
And I think it was the end of Rush Hour 2 where they knock somebody out of a window and he blows up and Chris Tucker goes in that voice, well, he ain't going to be in Rush Hour 3.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember that now.
So when he got knocked off the dock and he blew up and Chris Tucker's voice came in my head, and said, he ain't going to be in Birds of Prey 2.
I know. And again, of the Batman villains, yes, Zaz and Black Mask are probably more expendable than most, but still, I guess if anything, it speaks to how much I liked these versions that I was still bummed to see both of them die.
Yeah, I agree. I really wasn't surprised to see Zaz go. I expected that because I think wasn't there a point in the trailer where they say something about killing his best friend or something like that? Mm-hmm. So I definitely wasn't surprised there. I would have preferred he stuck around, but I'm not surprised. But Black Mask, I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, me too. But yeah. So,
at some point, there's not going to be a need for an Arkham Asylum. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And again, maybe it's because, in this continuity, this is the Suicide Squad continuity. This Black Mask is expendable because this isn't going to cross over with the Batman franchise. And so there can be a new Black Mask in the Batman franchise if they ever want it to be. So I guess there's no harm in killing him here because it's he's not going to be in Suicide Squad 2 or Birds of Prey 2, so who cares?
Yeah, I guess.
But again, I like him so much, I wish he could come back. But again, I also I have very mixed feelings, but I also appreciate that they committed and just blew his ass up.
Yeah. If you got to go, that's a way to do it.
I give them credit. They didn't pussyfoot around it. He blown up.
I still stand by 100% my thing about the R rating not being necessary, but in that moment they took advantage of it and I enjoyed it personally.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's not really I guess it's a gripe, but almost a I don't know, like a half-assed gripe, because I'm not mad at it. It's just, I'm just like, oh, I just liked him so much. So yeah, and then I like that they go for tacos. I like that and respect it. And again, the quick little shot of them, now they're running the birds of prey. I was like, give me that. Now let me see that. Stop. More of this, please. But, oh well. And so, yeah, Cass sticks around with Harley. They find Bruce. They get their sandwich. Hey, there you go. Do you know what? The guy who makes the sandwiches, he never sold them out. So, Jamie, that can be your guy.
All right. It's flimsy, but I'll deal with it.
Sandwich Maker Johnny, or whatever the hell his name was.
Except for he's trying to poison him with 6-month-old cheese.
No. He's a chef. He knows it's safe. He understands. And I like that they teased with the fake post-credit scene. Or not scene, but where he's like, oh, you guys stuck around this long? And nothing.
Yeah, I was not particularly enamored with
Well,
that.
by then you were probably ready to go because you didn't like the movie.
Yeah, and listen, I did not hate this movie. It just, I don't know how many times I can say it to get my point across. It wasn't for me. That's all I know to say about it.
Yeah.
I ain't even mad at it. I'm glad this movie exists for people that enjoyed it. And, it's like Batman Ninja. I don't think Batman Ninja is horrible. My son loves it. He's watched it on DC Universe like 3 or 4 times now. He's really into anime and I'm not. So again, people are wired differently to think different things. These are things I'm really glad exist for the people that love it. But you know what? I've got all my own stuff that I can enjoy. If something doesn't click with me, that's okay. Because it did click with somebody. Like it clicked with you. It clicked with maybe I don't know, a 17-year-old girl in Nebraska or something like that. Cool, great. I'm glad you guys got what you liked out of it. For me, it's just not my bag.
Fair enough. Yep, not everything can be. Well, I mean, that sounds sort of like closing thoughts. Anything else you'd like to add? And I want to hear your letter grade.
It's worth watching. I'm going to buy the movie, and it's not one I'm going to revisit very often. I mean, I'll maybe watch it a time or two here or there or something like that. It's nothing I'm like foaming at the mouth to get a hold of, but my daughters will probably enjoy the girl power aspect. And again, they do need more representation out there, which is another reason I kind of wish this thing wasn't rated R so that it didn't pan out the way it did. But that's beating the dead horse. I recommend seeing it, judge for yourself. Not everybody thinks the way I do. You guys all enjoy way more humor in your movies than I do and that sort of thing. So, check it out. It's worth seeing. I've seen a lot of things I like better. I've seen a lot of things I like less. So, for my letter grade, if I'm trying to be as objective as possible, I'm going to say it's like somewhere in the B territory. But for my own personal sensibilities, I got to put it like a C-.
Okay, cool. And yeah, overall, I had a really good time with it. I was totally entertained from beginning to end. I loved these versions of these characters. I wanted more of them. And I had a couple gripes here and there, and it just held me back a little bit from loving it. So I think it's a really good, entertaining movie. I just wish they'd pushed it a little further to really, hit a home run. But I really liked watching it. I look forward to seeing it again. I will buy it. It's totally entertaining. So I'm at like a B. More of this Dinah Lance, more of the Huntress, please. And let's get some super glue and put Black Mask back together so he can come back. But no, it was a good time at the movies, and I hope people find it. I hope people discover it, and I hope people like it.
Yeah, it deserves better than what it's gotten so far, financially speaking, anyway.
Yeah. So there you go. Birds of Prey, a C- and a B. And again, for what it's worth, I know Brendan loved it. And he was not feeling it from the trailer. So there you have it. I'm sure we'll talk about it plenty more moving forward. But now, before we say goodbye, we are going to check in with you fine folks as we crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, this is from Major Lee. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family, if Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman movie had been made, would it have been successful, and would it have taken place after the events of Batman Returns?" Jamie, thoughts?
I mean, it would have had to have taken place because there was no Catwoman prior to Batman Returns, right?
True.
Okay. Would it have been successful? I don't know. I want to say it would be, but as I can't recall because I wasn't paying a ton of attention to box office and stuff back then, but I don't think Batman Returns had quite the financial success that they were hoping it was going to, especially considering the success of 89. So I'm not sure how well received it would have been, but I would have been in line day one. I can promise you that.
Yeah. I mean, it would have certainly been more successful than the Halle Berry one.
Well, I mean, not saying a lot there, but yeah.
Especially if they had struck while the iron was hot. Like if it had come out in like 94, 2 years after Batman Returns, yeah, I think it probably could have been very successful, but unfortunately that's not the way it happened. There is a script for it out there. So one of these days we should dig it up and review it.
You know what? When we're sitting in Shady Acres Retirement Home podcast and we can finally get all these movie scripts done.
Perfect. All right, next message is from Willis Orr. It says, if Batman Unchained was made in storyline, what was the purpose of Batman hallucinating Jack Nicholson's Joker with the Scarecrow fear toxin?
Showing deep-seated hang-ups he has about his confrontation with the Joker, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the story purpose, the real purpose is just to be able to get him in there for buzz and to please the fans. The story purpose is, in theory, there would have been some sort of deep-seated fear with all of his villains, because I guess they would all have come back. Right?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, next message from Condor Zolander. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family, what are your predictions for the Penguin, the Riddler, and Catwoman in The Batman? Also, what's your favorite Quentin Tarantino movie? Mine is Pulp Fiction." Condor, thank you for the message. Jamie, thoughts on Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman in The Batman?
Looking forward to all of them. Not exactly sure what to expect, except for Zoe Kravitz. The only thing I've seen Zoe Kravitz in was X-Men First Class and Mad Max Fury Road. I thought she was, I don't really even remember her in First Class. I haven't seen it in a while. Fury Road, I thought she was fine. So I'm certainly interested in seeing
She sure
that.
was fine.
Wow, I see what you did there. Obviously, I love Colin Farrell. I'm a big Colin Farrell fan. He's one of my favorite actors, so I'm certainly looking forward to that. And Riddler, Paul Dano, that dude's. I haven't seen a lot of his work, but what I have seen him in, he's deep, man. He's one of those deep dudes. So we could get some really complex villains out of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah. I feel like the Riddler is going to be the big bad. I think Penguin is going to be more of an extended cameo because in the press release for the Batman, they put Penguin last. So they did the whole thing where it was like starring this person, this person, this person, this person, and Colin Farrell at the very end, which makes it believe that it's more of like a supporting role. And then Catwoman, I think, will be, doing what Catwoman does, which is sort of straddling the middle and occasionally helping out Batman and then occasionally betraying him as needed. So I can't wait. I love that all three of these are going to be in there. And then Jamie, favorite Quentin Tarantino movie?
Kill Bill. And no, I don't differentiate on which one's which. I put them both together because they tell one complete story.
Sweet. Mine is actually Jackie Brown.
Great film.
I love that.
That's easily Tarantino's most underrated work.
It's so
Easily.
good. Yeah. All right, next message from Ron Messbarger. It says, hey, hope you're doing well. Andy, thanks for all the hard work that you put in even while traveling. Jamie, thank you for making time to join Andy half a world away. And Brendan, thank you for being the second co-host to my favorite show and helping Andy keep the show rolling. You're all awesome and not the podcasters we deserve, but the ones we want. Another podcast I listened to did something similar to this idea, and I thought you could do it and have some fun. When there are the three of you, snake draft the DC movie props you would like to own and display in your home. This way you're not all picking the same prop, and it makes things fun and interesting. Have fun and hope to hear it soon. Well, Ron, Brendan's not here. Snake draft. What does that mean? Should I know what that means, or is that a typo?
I'm not familiar with that term.
Okay, I don't. Maybe it's a typo. I don't know what that means. But okay, DC movie props that you would want to own and display. Jamie.
Other than the Batmobiles?
I mean, Batmobiles, like, yeah, that's kind of like a given, right?
I mean, to be fair, I think I'm the only one of the three of us that would have the room for one.
That's probably true. I'll tell you what else I'll take. I'll take the big duck from Batman Returns.
Did I tell you the museum about 15 miles north of me has one of those in there?
No.
Oh, yeah. They got a Batmobile. They got that. They got a number of the props from Batman Returns, actually.
I love that duck. Love that duck. Okay, DC movie props. So it doesn't even have to be Batman.
Oh.
I'll tell you, I'll take an Aquaman trident. That's badass.
That'd be pretty tight, yeah. I mean, we're not just talking DCEU, right?
No, he just said DC movies. So I think that means anything.
I mean, if I got a screen used anything from The Dark Knight, I would pass the hell out.
Yeah. What about that cool clear case that the bat suit is in the bunker in The Dark Knight?
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Like in the middle of your man cave.
Have you ever seen Basketball?
Yes, but it's been a long time.
So, like, they're walking through Robert Vaughn's office, and he's got, like, all these props and everything, and they walk by this glass case, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, yeah, give me William Fichtner, and I'll just put him over in the corner of my basement here.
Perfect. I think it would be awesome to get a Batarang from every iteration.
Sold. Right there. Done. That's it.
Wouldn't that be cool? Like Adam West all the way through Ben Affleck and then soon to be Robert Pattinson and everything in between, including Kilmer and Clooney. But like, yes, could you imagine a Batarang from every era, but all in a giant like frame?
This is worthy. I like this idea.
Sweet. All right.
I'm surprised Warner Brothers hasn't tried to market something like that.
I'd buy it. Well, Ron, I don't know if that's what you had in mind, but, you know, it's a start. And for Brendan, it would be he'd want the box from Batman Forever to put on his TV and beam it into his brain.
Anybody else feel like a fried egg?
I'll answer for him. Okay, next message is from Reverend Fraser. It says, hey, Holy BatCast family, did you know that Michael Keaton was supposed to have a cameo in Superman Lives as Batman, appearing at Superman's funeral, giving a eulogy on a giant screen? Reverend, thank you for the message. I have heard that, Jamie.
I've first I've heard of it.
I do remember hearing that. And I don't know if Michael Keaton ever agreed to it, but I had heard that rumor. I don't know how much truth there is to it and in which version of the script it was, but yes, I did hear that there was a version of the script where that would happen, which I think would have been badass, but sadly...
Well, Kilmer's the only one that actually mentioned him, right?
Clooney says it. Clooney says this is why Superman works alone.
Okay. Oh, Kilmer was Metropolis. That's right. Never mind.
Does Klumer? Oh, yeah. You're right. When he says, oh, the circus must be halfway to Metropolis.
By now.
Yep. Exactly. All right. This is from Horace McNichol. It says, hey, Andy and Jamie, do you know about Batman Dark Knight? It's supposed to be the 5th Batman movie after Batman and Robin, with the Scarecrow and Man-Bat as the villains and Dick Grayson as a college student in Gotham University. Horace, thank you for the message. I think this is the one that generally is now... It used to be, like for years, people would call it Batman Triumphant. But then more recently, we learned it was actually going to be Batman Unchained, I think. But Man-Bat, I don't think was ever part of it. It was going to be Scarecrow and Harley, was my understanding.
Yeah, I'm not up to snuff on that other than the discussions that we have. So,
but yes, I mean, it's one of those. It never got very far because Batman and Robin tanked, and so they didn't get to do very much with it. But yeah, there's definitely been information about that out there. We talk about it there was an episode we did a couple years ago where we talked about the Batman movies that never got made, and we talked about it in there.
That was a fun episode.
That was fun. All right. This message from Odile Jones. It says, hey guys, with Valentine's Day coming, here are 2 comic book romance-based questions. Oh, number 1, who are your top 5 comic book movie or TV couples across the board in no order? For me, it's Clark and Lois from Smallville, Peter and MJ from the MCU Spider-Man, Pepper Potts and Tony Stark, Diana and Steve Trevor, and then the last one, this is premature, but I have a feeling Ezra Miller's Barry Allen and Kiersey Clemens' Iris are going to be adorable. Though Zoe Kravitz and Robert Pattinson as Catwoman and Batman, that screams sexy. Number 2, if DC decided to make one of their movies a love story romantic comedy, which couple would you use to sell it? You still have the action, a villain, and all that, but I think no contest, it would be Big Barda and Mr. Miracle. All right, so 5 comic book movie or TV couples. Jamie?
Big Barda and Mr. Miracle in Tom King's Mr. Miracle maxi series from last year.
He said movie or TV. That's not.
Oh, it has to be a movie or TV.
I mean, that's what he said.
Damn it. I was going to use all comics because I don't know about them. I always really like Tom Welling and Erica Durant.
Totally. I completely agree. Yep.
Does this mean we're shipping? Is that what the kids mean by saying this?
Yeah.
I don't know what this shit means.
That's what we're saying.
Okay. Throw one in while I think.
Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter.
Perfect. I like it.
Obviously.
I'll second that one.
Obviously. I would say Batman and Catwoman from Batman Returns.
Okay.
I know it ends tragically, but man, they have such chemistry, and I could watch the 2 of them all day.
I ain't mad at that, but I ain't picking it.
Okay, that's fine. I think Diana and Steve Trevor. Wonder Woman, absolutely.
Yeah. Fair enough.
That gets me to 4. Gets me
I'm trying
to 4.
to think of something unusual that just like isn't in the. I mean, Adam West and Lee Merriweather in the Batman '66 movie. Just because.
Mm-hmm.
Ever mention how much I like Lee Merriweather?
You have.
Okay. Anyway. I don't know. I'd have to put thought into this.
I know.
It's too late at night for me to put thought into something that deep with that many answers possible.
Right. And then if they were going to make like a love story DC movie, he says Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. What do you say?
After reading that maxi series, I'd have a hard time contesting that, but I want to come up with a different answer. So, love story DC movie. Okay, since I didn't get to use this answer for my couples that I loved, I want somebody to ape the exact feel, tone, and everything about the relationship between Oliver Queen and Dinah Lance in Green Arrow Rebirth. Because although I wasn't an enormous fan of that comic, I mean, it had its moments and whatnot, their relationship dynamic in that book was magnificent.
I love that. No, I think that's a great choice. I think Green Arrow, Black Canary, great choice. I would also go with the Twisted Valentine's movie and do Mad Love.
All right, yeah.
Makes sense. And then since, I'll throw one more out there and I'll say Nightwing and Starfire.
I condone this as well.
All right.
Oh,
Great.
another one I'll throw in for the couples thing is this may be stretching it, but it's still DC, so it counts. Negative Man and
and
I can't remember his name.
John? No? Maybe? Yes.
I'm still heartbroken over that shit.
Yeah. You and me both, brother. All right. Well, let's do one last one and then let's get you out of here. This is from Brian B. It says, "Hey guys, I hope your 2020 is going well. In preparation for Wonder Woman 1984, I've begun rewatching the DCEU films. While Man of Steel was both better and worse than I remember, BVS was even worse, seeing it for the first time since that fateful day in March of 2016. While the last thing the internet needs is another BVS debate, my question is this. What is your Mount Rushmore of movies that, severely disappointed you in theaters? Mine are BVS, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, The Lost World Jurassic Park, Halloween 2007. And to be more positive, what movie completely blew your expectations away and you fell in love with in theaters? Also, one of your last podcasts had a question asking you about your favorite show that had Batman elements. My answer would be Person of Interest. It has a billionaire wanting to fight crime, a cop who helps the hero, a former corrupt cop on the right path, an impressive rogues gallery. It's written by Jonah Nolan, who has a smidge of history with Batman. Lastly, while it seems the Batman's cast seems to be locked up, I have a few casting ideas in case they sneak in a few more. Lucius Fox should be Lance Reddick from John Wick. Wendell Pierce could also be Lucius Fox. And Harvey Bullock would be Kevin Chapman. Dr. Leslie Tompkins could be Gene Smart. Thanks for your hard work, and I hope the new year keeps on being great. Brian,
I'm gonna hit that last one first and say Gene Smart needs to be in everything now. So yes, I condone that 100%.
I think Gene Smart as Leslie Tompkins is awesome. Okay, so that's kind of a fun question. Movie that like broke your heart in the theater, and then a movie that maybe you went in like not really expecting much and being blown away.
Heartbreak might be Batman and Robin. Because at that time, remember, I thought Batman Forever was the definitive Batman because I was a moron.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's see. Blew away expectations. I know there's some. I know there are. None of them are popping into my head readily at the moment.
Well, movies that like broke my heart, Lost World Jurassic Park is one of them. Although over the years, I think it's aged well and I appreciate it more. But yes, in the theater, 1997, I couldn't believe it wasn't amazing. Stargate, not because I hate that movie, but I thought that movie was going to change my life, and it was very disappointing.
Listen, I got hyped for that movie because some critic or somebody said it's Indiana Jones meets Star Wars. I'm like, shit, where do I sign up? And then I went and saw it. I'm like, bring me the head of that son of a bitch.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to love it. And, oh, man, it's okay. But it wasn't what it could have been. So that was another heartbreaker. And honestly, Avengers Age of Ultron. Because I so loved the Avengers. I loved it. And so I was like, so for Age of Ultron, I was hyped. And then as I watched the movie, I just kept getting sadder because I was like, oh, this just isn't working the way the first one did. And then
I keep wanting to say something about Infinity War, but I'm not going to because I didn't expect I was going to love that movie. Yeah. I wanted to be surprised by it, but I wasn't.
Movie that completely blew away my expectations. So I was looking forward to it, but I was not prepared for how much I was going to love Batman Begins. Like, that one I was like, oh, cool, yeah, a new Batman movie. And when it walked out, I was like, that's the best thing I ever saw. So, like, yeah, completely blew me away. And then I mentioned it pretty recently on The Real Fans, is John Wick, the first one. Because I went in just because we decided we were going to do a podcast about it. And then I walked out being like, holy shit, that was good. It was amazing. I always love it when that can happen, when you go in being like, I guess, I mean, again, I wasn't mad on Batman Begins. I was looking forward to it, but I was not prepared for how amazing it was going to end up being.
I'll throw just a little bit of a loop into this. It's not like the world's most incredible film or anything, but I was going through a lot of problems when I was a teenager, and my friends would drag me kicking and screaming to movies, even though I told them I didn't want to go and shit. Like, they'd literally grab a hold of me and like drag me out of my house when I was in depressed moods and shit. And they did it with Wayne's World, and they made me laugh, and that's why I hold that movie in such high affinity. I've told the story before in at least one podcast or another. But they also did the same thing to me with a movie called Gladiator, and it's not the Russell Crowe one. It's one with, I want to say his guy's name's like James Marshall or something like that. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s in it. Brian Dennehy's in it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and they took me to that, and I was like, I had no interest in it. Trailers looked dumb to me, and I watched the movie, and I really enjoyed the movie, and I to this day find that movie to be very underrated. So again, it's not like a world-changing movie, but I mean, going in with zero expectation or desire to see the film and walking out going, hey, that was pretty damn good. So I mean, that's the best example I can come up with off the cuff there.
Yeah, I love stuff like that and I'm sure there are more. I just have to go with the ones that came, off the top of my head because I'm sure there are more where you go in going, okay, and then going, holy crap, that was amazing. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Good question. We'll wrap it up. We got other things that we need to do. And there are plenty more emails. We'll just have to get to them next time. So thank you to those of you who did take the time to write. We really do appreciate it. It is always nice to hear from y'all. So if we didn't get to you this time, we will get to you next time. But that will do it for this episode of the show. It is good to be back. And Jamie, it is good to have you back now that we're in the same time zone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to get up at the butt crack of dawn on a Sunday to do this, or not like I wouldn't be anyway, but.
Right. Well, good. Tell our friends where to follow you.
Twitter handle, BatRaider3960, various Real Fans groups on Facebook, so on and so forth.
Cool. All right. Well, great. So I already told you where to follow me, so no worries on that, but that will do it for this episode. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us and for downloading the show. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode, and please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Again, you can always go to holybatcast.com, and you can find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've got a message for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. But that'll do it. On behalf of Jamie, I have been Andy. Thank you for joining us and being part of our Bat family. We'll see you next time. Same Bat time, same Bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Do you know what that means? That means he's not just after the kid anymore. He's after all of us. Sure as hell after me. I just robbed him. You just betrayed him. You just killed his BFF. And you're dumb enough to be building a case against him. So, unless we all want to die very unpleasant deaths and let Roman go finger fishing in the kid's intestinal tract, we're gonna have to work together.